The sun clawed at my skin like a vengeful god, turning my arms into strips of rawhide as I collapsed onto the scorching sand, my water bottle empty and mocking me from where I'd hurled it hours ago. "You're no grandson of mine?" Abuela's voice echoed in my pounding skull, her words sharper than the thorns snagging my jeans. The last thing she'd spat before the truck's taillights vanished into the shimmering heat. I laughed then, a cracked, delirious sound swallowed by the wind. Because what else do you do when your own blood leaves you for dead in the Sonoran desert? All because I dared to love a man? It started like so many American family dramas do. A 4th of July barbecue in our dusty backyard in Tucson. The kind where the grill smokes up ribs slathered in Kansas City sauce and Uncle Ray blasts Springsteen from the old boombox. I was 19, fresh out of high school, with dreams of community college and a job at the auto shop to fix up Abuelo's '72 Chevy. But that night, after too many Coronas and the fireworks popping like accusations in the sky, I'd let it slip. Not in a big coming-out speech, no rainbow flags or tearful hugs. Just a quiet admission to my cousin Maria over plates of elote. Yeah, I'm gay. Have been since I figured out why the boys in gym class made my stomach flip more than the girls. Word travels faster than a coyote in these parts. By dessert, flan jiggling in Tupperware, Abuela was staring daggers across the picnic table, her rosary beads clicking like a countdown. Abuelo, ever the stoic one with his faded marine tattoos and calloused hands from 40 years welding pipelines, just cleared his throat and muttered, "Family don't bend like that, Mijo." They didn't yell, didn't disown me in front of everyone. No, that came later, in the suffocating quiet of their double-wide trailer, where the AC hummed like a guilty conscience. The next morning, they loaded me into the truck under the pretense of a man-to-man talk out at Saguaro National Park. "Time you learned what real survival means," Abuelo said, his voice gravelly as the dashboard. Abuela packed a single canteen, a stale tortilla, and my phone, battery drained to 0 before we even hit the highway. I thought it was tough love, the kind you see in those Lifetime movies about wayward kids finding Jesus in the wilderness. But as the miles stretched, the cacti blurring into silent sentinels, doubt gnawed at me like the dry mouth cracking my lips. They stopped at a pullout overlooking a vast basin of creosote bushes and jagged lava rocks, the kind of place where rattlers coil and buzzards circle like unpaid bills. Abuela handed me the canteen with eyes like polished obsidian. "God tests the weak, Emilio. Pray this straightens you out." Straightens. The word hit like a slap. Abuelo wouldn't look at me, just stared at the horizon, jaw set like he was chewing on regret. Then they drove off, dust plume rising like a funeral pyre, leaving me with nothing but the weight of their Bible in my backpack and the echo of tires on gravel fading into eternity. That first hour rage-fueled me. I hiked toward what I swore was a road, cursing in Spanglish under my breath. Pendejos, Hijos de puta. My boots kicking up red dirt that stained my socks crimson. The heat was a living thing, pressing down at over 100 degrees, turning sweat into salt that burned my eyes. By noon, the tortilla was gone, crumbled in my fist and spat out because it tasted like betrayal. My phone was a brick, no signal in this godforsaken nowhere. I rationed sips from the canteen, each one smaller than the last, until it ran dry and I licked the plastic rim like a junkie chasing a fix. Hallucinations crept in by afternoon, the desert playing tricks like a bad acid trip. I saw Abuela's face in the twisted arms of a saguaro, her mouth opening to whisper prayers I never believed in. Abuelo appeared as a mirage by a dry wash, his ghost offering a cold Tecate that evaporated when I reached for it. My legs turned to lead, blisters bubbling on my heels, and I collapsed under a mesquite tree, its thorns drawing blood like tiny accusations. Why me? I'd always been the good kid, the one who mowed their lawn without asking, who translated bills at the clinic when Abuela's English faltered. But loving who I loved? That was the line they wouldn't cross. In their world, built on ranchera ballads and Catholic guilt, a gay grandson was a stain on the family escutcheon, a whisper that could unravel the tight-knit threads of our Mexican-American life in the Southwest. Night fell like a mercy, stars punching holes in the black velvet sky, but the cold was a knife twisting in my gut. I huddled in my hoodie, shivering as coyotes yipped in the distance, their calls a chorus of mockery. Sleep came in fits, dreams of Maria's sympathetic texts I could never read, of the boy from high school, Javier, who'd kissed me once behind the bleachers, his touch electric until fear made him pull away. I woke to dawn's blush, throat raw as sandpaper, and forced myself up. Survival wasn't about them anymore. It was about me proving I wasn't the broken thing they thought. By day 2, delirium was my constant companion. I stumbled toward a distant peak. What I imagined was Picacho Peak, mirages of highways dancing just out of reach. My vision blurred, colors bleeding into one another. The ochre earth, the bruised purple mountains, the relentless blue sky mocking my thirst. I talked to myself to stay sane, reciting lines from movies, "Get busy living or get busy dying." Andy Dufresne's voice from Shawshank, because if Hollywood could redeem a banker in prison, maybe I could redeem myself in this hellscape. That's when I heard it. A low whinny cutting through the haze, followed by the crunch of hooves on gravel. At first, I thought it was another trick, my brain conjuring a cowboy from some John Wayne fever dream. But no, there he was. A figure on horseback cresting a dune, silhouetted against the sun like a painting come to life. Lean and weathered, with sun-kissed skin and dark hair curling under a wide-brim hat. He rode easy, like the desert was his living room. "Hey, you alive down there?" His voice was deep, laced with that easy southwestern drawl, the kind that rolls off the tongue like honey over biscuits. I tried to answer, but my voice cracked into a wheeze. He dismounted in a fluid motion, boots hitting sand with a puff, and knelt beside me, his shadow a blessed coolness. Up close, he was younger than I expected, maybe 25, with hazel eyes flecked gold like flecks in quartz, and a jawline shadowed by stubble. He smelled of leather and sage, worlds away from my sweat and fear reek. "Jesus, kid, what the hell happened? You look like you arm-wrestled a dust devil and lost." "Family. Trip," I croaked, the irony bitter as bile. He pressed a canteen to my lips, cool water flooding my mouth like absolution, and I gulped until he pulled it back, chuckling softly. "Easy, tiger. Too fast and you'll puke it up." His name was Leonardo, a park ranger out on patrol for lost hikers, though something in his wry smile said he bent rules for strays like me. He helped me onto his horse, a sturdy bay named Rio, and we rode slow back to his truck, his arm steady around my waist to keep me from sliding off. "Name's Leo," he said, breath warm against my ear. "And whatever bullshit got you out here, it ain't the end of the story." That ride blurred into fragments. The jolt of tires over washboard roads, Leo radioing for backup with clip deficiency. The 4-drip in a makeshift clinic at the ranger station stinging like fire but bringing life back to my veins. He stayed through it all, perched on a stool with coffee in hand, asking questions without prying. About Tucson, my family, the trip that wasn't. I told him bits, the words tumbling out like stones from a landslide. The barbecue confession, the truck's abandonment, the weight of prayers that felt like chains. Leo listened, nodding, his fingers absently tracing the brim of his hat. "Sounds like they scared you into the fire," he said finally. "But fire forges, Emilio. Doesn't destroy, not if you're steel underneath." Over the next days, as I recovered in a borrowed cot at the station, monsoon rains pattering on the tin roof like hesitant applause, Leo became my anchor. He was Apache on his mother's side, raised in the shadow of the superstitions, with a biology degree gathering dust while he chased calluses and sunsets. Gay himself, out since 16 to a father who handed him a beer and said, "Love who you love, son. Just don't be an asshole about it." No drama, no desert exile. Just acceptance, plain as the wildflowers blooming after the storm. Our connection sparked quiet, like embers under ash. Evenings, we'd sit on the porch with mugs of black coffee, watching lightning stitch the sky. He'd tell stories of rescues gone wrong. A flash flood sweeping a jeep, a climber dangling from Camelback's cliffs, his voice weaving humor through the horror. I'd share fragments of mine. Abuela's tamales that could cure a broken heart, Abuelo's war tales whispered over chessboards. Laughter came first, then silences heavy with unspoken want. One night, as thunder rumbled distant, our hands brushed on the railing, rough palm to trembling fingers, and neither pulled away. His gaze met mine, steady as the stars, and in that look, I saw not pity, but possibility. A kiss followed, soft and searching under the porch light, tasting of rain and redemption. It wasn't fireworks. It was a hearth fire, warm against the desert chill. But conflict brewed like a haboob on the horizon. Word reached my family through the park service. Protocol for missing persons, and Abuela showed up at the station 3 days later, Abuelo trailing like a shadow, his hat clutched in gnarled hands. She burst through the door in a whirlwind of sobs in Spanish, clutching a Tupperware of fresh tortillas like an olive branch. Emilio, mi niño, guiprad. God showed us the error. Abuelo hung back, eyes downcast, mumbling about heat of the moment and old ways dying hard. Leo tensed beside me, his jaw a tight line, but I waved him off. This was my storm to weather. In the stuffy office, fluorescent buzz overhead, they begged forgiveness. Abuela on her knees, rosary spilling like tears, Abuelo's voice cracking on apologies forged in regret. Betrayal hung thick, a ghost between us. Their desperate act, born of fear that my truth would shatter their world. Their church, their neighbors' nods at Massachusetts. We thought the desert would make you strong, Abuela whispered. Like it did your abuelo in the war. I wanted to scream, to hurl their hypocrisy back like the empty canteen. But looking at them, frail now, lines etched deeper by worry, I saw not monsters, but mortals, trapped in an America that preached liberty but whispered shame to anyone who colored outside the lines. You almost killed me, I said, voice steady. Not just my body, the part of me that trusts family to stay. Silence stretched, broken only by the drip of a leaky faucet. Then Abuelo stepped forward, hand on my shoulder, trembling. We're sorry, Mijo. We were wrong. Come home, or don't. But know we love you. All of you. It wasn't absolution, not yet. Trust rebuilds slow like a trail after a rockslide. But in their eyes, I glimpsed the crack. Acceptance dawning, fragile as a creosote bloom. Leo and I left that night, driving south toward Bisbee in his truck, windows down to let the wind whip away the residue. We talked for hours about building something new, him with his ranger badge, me enrolling at the community college in nursing because if I could survive the wild, I could mend the wounded. Months later, as fall painted the canyons gold, I stood with Leo at that same pullout, the desert stretching forgiving. Abuela and Abuelo came too. Awkward picnic, no truck this time, just a cooler of sodas and stories swapped over sandwiches. No grand speeches, but Abuela slipped me a new rosary, beads rainbow-hued, whispering, "For all God's colors." Abuelo clapped Leo on the back, gruff approval in his nod. It wasn't perfect. Old wounds scar, doubts linger like heat mirages, but it was human, real as the red earth underfoot. In the end, the desert didn't straighten me. It bent the world just enough to let light in. Survival wasn't just enduring the thirst. It was awakening to the love that quenches, the acceptance that roots deeper than blood. With Leo's hand in mine, the horizon felt less like an enemy and more like home.